It's time now for the big story, and King Charles has called for the UK and France to step up their fight against climate change, branding it our most existential challenge of all. The monarch used a historic speech in the French Senate to call for a renewed entente cordiale between the two countries to tackle environmental challenges. Here is the big man in action.
Just as we stand together against military aggression, so must we strive together to protect the world from our most existential challenge of all, that of global warming, climate change, and the catastrophic destruction of nature.
So, does the King deserve an opinion on climate change? Let's speak now to broadcaster and journalist and former top royal correspondent at the BBC, Jennie Bond. Hi, Jennie. Queen Elizabeth famously stayed out of politics for 7 decades. Do you think she would have made a speech like this?
Probably not, but it's different, I suppose, for King Charles, because for 50 years he has been having his own opinions. He has been campaigning vociferously about the climate. You know, he was thought of as a weirdo, a tree-hugging weirdo, and now he's a green hero, isn't he? And he can't take those opinions back. The question is, can he meddle in party politics? And in that, he knows he can't. I mean, he said before he ascended the throne, when he was asked, you've got to clip your wings when you become king. He said, well, I'm not stupid, I know things can't be the same. And they haven't been. But in broad diplomatic terms, he has expressed both in Germany and in France his known position, his passion and his deeply held belief that this is an existential crisis facing the world, and the world has to unite to fight the climate emergency.
Sure. Well, Jennie, the timing of this is awkward, though, isn't it, given that it comes in the same week that the Prime Minister rose back on several net zero pledges. Does this put the palace at odds with number 10?
Well, I don't think that King Charles is going to be particularly pleased with Rishi Sunak. I would love to know whether they did discuss this in one of their weekly meetings. I mean, Charles has been up in Balmoral for several weeks, but nevertheless, the audiences go ahead, either remotely or on the phone. And constitutionally, the monarch has the right to be consulted, to warn and to encourage. And that's quite open to interpretation, isn't it, really? I would love to know whether the King was consulted by Rishi Sunak about this proposed about turn. If he wasn't consulted, then Charles might be a bit miffed. And if he was consulted, I think Charles might have been within his rights to issue a gentle warning, his opinions, his views. Clearly, if he did issue any such warning, it was ignored. So I think then he'd be doubly miffed, wouldn't he? I think whichever way we look at it, we've probably got a bit of a miffed monarch.
Well, Jennie, that may well be true. He didn't seem very miffed in France, though, did he? It was a magnificent occasion, and the French really rolled out the red carpet. He spoke the language fluently at the podium. He impressed his audience. This is the amazing soft diplomatic power of a monarch over an elected president, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen it at work over 35 years around the world, and it is quite something to behold. I mean, these visits, they're full of flummery and, silly little engagements, really, most of them, and playing table tennis, as the Queen did with Madame Macron. I mean, what's the point of that? It's a photo opportunity, but the soft power is there. And the example of his mother and of Charles of speaking in the language when you can. And Charles is pretty good at French, actually. He delivered that speech in the Senate almost half in French and half in English. And that went down incredibly well. So it does strengthen the ties between the two countries. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it is always the Foreign Office who tell the royal family where they want to go. They don't suddenly say, oh, look, I'd like to go off to the Caribbean. They're told where to go. And there is a purpose, and that is to improve relations. And generally it does.
Well, Jennie, as far as I'm concerned, you are TV royalty. Great to have you on the show.